So when we talk about verticals, and kind of the regulated industries, some examples could be, cannabis, legal, healthcare, CPG, like areas where there's very specific information and knowledge that you need to operate there. And essentially that the buyer has a very small community where they're operating.
Yeah, I mean, so vertical, obviously, like everyone, I think when you think about ecosystems, I think a lot of folks would be like, oh yeah, like I'm in a, if I'm in a certain vertical, okay, I get it. Like there's like the conferences you go to, or like, there's like people kind of the clients and, where they hang out. And that's true. But I think like, one of the things to ask is being part of that vertical, defensible to some degree. Like, is there a competitive advantage to being in that vertical, and why? And this is why I think we tend to see that like the regulated industries are a more powerful vertical ecosystem than not. So you mentioned CPG. There's aspects of CPG where there might be a regulator, but or not. But like
Hmm.
if you're doing stuff for like a beauty brand or let's say like food and beverage where it's there's not much of a kind of you know regulatory kind of hurdles or just even deeper kind of knowledge necessary, perhaps let's say, and you're just making simple marketing campaigns or websites or whatever it might be. Then it's not as you know defensible. But I think when you're talking something like healthcare, then you're really talking about something where yeah, some of that knowledge really comes to bear, and then from there, yeah, you can be really specific about kind of building the network off of your expertise in navigating the regulated space.
Yeah, I think that's an important area because, especially in these areas, there are aspects of compliance where there are probably other vendors who may focus on, like let's say it's like financial services and there's some security requirements there, or healthcare and privacy with data, and there are third party vendors that help with that compliance, and being aligned with those vendors and having experience there could be a strong referral source for your agency. And yeah, the more that you're involved and deeper with, you mentioned like industry trade groups and communities there, they basically understand that you have this expertise that's really hard to replicate.
Yeah, exactly. And ultimately that expertise translates into trust because yeah, when you're highly regulated and there's and when we say regulated, it often means that hey, you know there's a cost or there's risk in not kind of being compliant with the regulations, right? And so if you run afoul of privacy laws, if you run afoul of like certain kind of regulations around how you might advertise your services, like you can get the government might fine you, or maybe you might get sued or something like that. And so I think it's about being able to show prospective clients that look, you can trust us because we know we know the space, we know the things that you're gonna have to worry about, and so this is where you get to really separate from the generalists who probably have no idea and then are kind of thinking about it more superficially.
Yeah. And just thinking about, how does this kind of compound over time going deeper here? We talk, about, yeah, speaking at trade conferences, the more expertise you have, you're not just attending, but you're being the thought expert in front of a larger audience at conferences, or even specific, if there's industry specific media where you can build that credibility that, you really have that experience there. Um, and then, yeah, I mentioned, going deeper with all of these vendors, being, hyper aware of, who are the big players there, and how do you, how can you be the parties that they refer to reduce kind of the risk of implementation? And yeah, ultimately, the more buyers that know that you're a specialist and an expert in this regulated environment will help, help them trust you, help you win the work faster, so your sales cycles should shorten. And then in terms of pricing, the more you're an expert in this specific area, you'll have stronger pricing power, and so that could overall help your margins for delivery.